Mark Friedman has a purpose. As managing partner and co-founder of Evolved Profits, he and his team have over 40 years of experience in helping businesses free up cash so that it can be reinvested into helping employees, growing the business, and creating positive social impact. He is a serial entrepreneur, CEO, and the best-selling author of Expense to Profit: Eliminate the Costs That Sabotage Your Growth. Mark loves helping companies create more profits while being an agent for change. This is his purpose, and in an effort to help more companies and more people, Mark, along with co-host Yannick Silver, author of Evolved Enterprise, bring you Profits with Purpose, a podcast that aims to do just that. On the show, Mark and Yannick talk to successful corporate decision makers, exploring valuable lessons learned, experiences in growing a company, ways to reduce expenses, and all the ways a company can have a positive social impact. Join us each week and get in on the discussion so we can all have more profits with purpose. And now, here's your host, Mark Friedman.
Welcome to Profits with Purpose. Today's episode, we're joined by Jeff Risley, the Chief Growth Officer at Saxum, with 30 years of experience in marketing, business development, strategy, consulting, sales, organizational growth, and relationship building, combined with the drive to create a better world right down our alleyway. Jeff is motivated to help people make some meaningful change in their business. Jeff, welcome to Profits with Purpose.
Thanks, Mark. I really appreciate being on.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. So let's talk first about your background and how you ended up in marketing and gained this massive amounts of experience. I mean, I know people that have some different levels, but you seem to have encompassed, I think, just about every level of marketing it seems like there could be.
Well, I've been very lucky and had the chance to actually work for a variety of clients and a variety of industries. So I actually started I got a journalism degree at the University of Kansas. I'm a Jayhawk fan, so.
Won't hold that against you. No, I don't really care.
No, I hope not. It's a national champion. I ended up doing trade association management work first in Washington, D.C., which is a lot of event planning, a lot of consulting and communications. And then around 2000, I started working at an agency, a marketing and advertising agency. And since then I've been doing agency work, but had a couple of side ventures in there where I was CMO for a solar developer. Had the chance to do business development for an engineering firm, even did some nonprofit work, leading some nonprofits in the renewable energy space.
Wow.
So did a lot and ended up coming back to agency life when I joined Saxum, which has been wonderful. Saxum's a great fit for me and my background. I said I've marketed everything from, French fries to financial services. But Saxum is a great agency that fits me well, and I've really enjoyed taking what we do, which we call being obsessed for good, out into the marketplace.
Wow. Obsessed for good. Okay, we'll come back to that later.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about Saxum and how that started and what brought you there.
Mm-hmm. So Saxum is a 19-year-old integrated marketing agency, started by Renzai Stone, who is actually a basketball player at the University of Oklahoma. And when he got out of college, really, he is an entrepreneur to the bone and wanted to start a business. And he did, and it was Saxum, and he's grown it significantly. We're now about 60 people headquartered in Oklahoma City. However, I'm in Denver and more than 50% of us work remote today. And the agency grew significantly over time. And then I came on board to really help kind of scale beyond the founder, right? Most small businesses, as they start to grow, the founder is either the one generating most of that new business for the organization or doing a big sizable chunk of the work. And Renzai really wanted to, scale beyond himself. So I came on board and have been helping him do that ever since. And we've grown significantly in the last 5 years, had wonderful years, and also just grown in our whole positioning and the type of business that we are going after, which we can talk about at some point.
Very interesting. So let's talk about conscious capitalism and why it's the future?
Well, you know, I'm a big believer in it personally, and always have been. You know, John Mackey from Whole Foods, who really started that movement, was a pioneer around, you know, purpose and profit together. And ever since then, I've just followed it, and it's gained momentum over the years to the point where just a few years ago, you know, the Business Roundtable decides it's going to change its mission to be more than just about shareholder return. I mean, you know, this is the largest group of CEOs on the planet, and this organization has decided that, you know, Milton Friedman wasn't 100% right. So that movement that, you know, has been punctuated since 2000 by others, Mark Benioff at Salesforce, a variety of other people, that has really now come to fruition, I think. And most business today is, and I don't have data on it, but most businesses, I believe, are trying to do more than just satisfy shareholders. They're trying to think about their impact on other parts of the world in some cases, and that's good for business. And you know, there's a lot of political debate about that, but in my opinion, it's the right thing for business to do. So that's why I believe it's not only the future; it's here and growing.
Very interesting. Okay, so conscious capitalism. I actually attended a few events that he was at from Whole Foods, Todd was at, and down in Washington, D.C. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting, definitely a different way of thinking than most businesses have thought.
Yes.
So let's talk. Yeah, as I say, so let's talk now how business in the business world is changing in relative to how it relates to positive social impact.
So what I think is going on in the marketplace based on our observations are really three things. I mean, the first one is investors are driving a lot of what I'll call the social impact needs of business, specifically around ESG, which I know you're probably familiar with. So
sure, of course,
investors are putting a lot of pressure on firms now to do more than just return to shareholders. How are we impacting the environment? What's our governance structure like? How are we impacting our people and, you know, those that we serve? So investors are driving a lot of it. The second one is customers are driving a lot of this. I mean, if you look at millennials and Gen Z in general, you know, a lot of the research shows that they are very concerned and very interested in what brands do in the marketplace. So you may love a brand, but you'll investigate its social impact and you'll make buying decisions based on that. So I think that's a big part of it as well. And then the third thing is just, I think there's starting to be a change among employees at businesses who are becoming champions of social impact within their own brands. They are trying to make change happen. It usually needs to have support from the top, but there's always champions internally that are trying to do something about it and make their brand, you know, have a better impact in the world.
Sure. So how do technologies help a business be more purpose-driven?
Well, I think on the technology side, it's really about data. So the collection of data and then the use of that data. So the way you can be more purpose-driven with that is, first of all, just knowing what kind of an impact you're having. So there are a bunch of different metrics out there, standards related to ESG that you can gather data on and compare yourself to these standards. That's a very prescriptive way to think about how technology could help you. The other is in just how you speak with your customers. I mean, I'm a marketer at heart and very into technology, and marketing technology today, CRM systems, marketing automation systems, content management systems, they really work so well that you're able to customize how you speak to your current clients and customers and to prospects, so that you're not wasting their time or your time. And that makes a big deal because it makes a big impact, because these folks they want to know about you. They don't just want to be sold to. So technology plays a big role in helping this all come around.
Got it. So let's talk about how you use data to drive positive initiatives in the business.
Yeah, in our case, what we see with clients is they don't lack data. They have tons of it. What they lack is gaining insights from that data. Some truth that's buried in all of it around generally the marketplace, around a customer type, around a buying habit, or any of those things. So what we're trying to do is comb through that data, find insights that will help them go to market better, smarter, more efficiently, speaking to the right people in the right way at the right time. And that can be through paid efforts. It can be through what we call owned efforts, where you're controlling your own ecosystems, like your social channels or your website, or through earned, when you're working with the media, for example. All of those things working together is what actually makes your brand, mean something out there in the marketplace. And it always starts with data. What do we know? What do we don't know? But how do we find insights that'll help us? Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. 100%.
Okay.
Yep. So it's important for companies to work towards positive social impact, or I should rephrase it. Is it important for companies to work towards positive social impact?
Well, I personally believe so. In fact, Saxum, we just wrote a book called Obsessed for Good, a marketer's guide to changing the world. So we really do believe it. And we put it down on paper, why we believe it, and how brands can, especially marketers, can think about how they can have a positive social impact. And to me, there's still a lot of businesses out there that are not necessarily operating this way, and that's okay. We're not saying that it's for everyone, but if you look at our world today, and this is a personal opinion, business has a big place in doing something positive. I mean, we control so much money as businesses, right? We're able to speak to so many and influence so many. It feels like the bar has been raised for us, and for marketers especially, because we're in control of those messages. So if we can make positive impact on the environment and on people, and bring quality of life to our clients and still make a profit, what's better than that? I mean, that's great. And I think it's good for the brands long term in terms of loyalty. There's definitely research that shows it's good for your bottom line, but not everybody has swung to that level yet.
Got it. Interesting. So let's talk about about the sustainability world, and how do companies really navigate to become more sustainable?
Well, so sustainability, has a generally accepted definition, but I think everybody thinks about it a little differently. And it's a broad term. So sustainable in terms of your business model, sustainable in terms of the environment. So if we think about it more in terms of a broad umbrella for sustainability being for the environment or for the good of the world, you have to look at yourself as a business and first say, can I stop doing harm? If I'm doing harm to sustainability, is there a way for me to stop or mitigate that, or continue or improve on it in some way, shape, or form?
Got it.
If not, then you need to then examine, well, what can I do to limit my negative impacts? Now, if your product and service is something that, like ours, for example, we don't have a big environmental footprint, but we believe wholeheartedly in sustainability, and helping our clients think through that, whether it's setting targets for their sustainability that they might want to hit eventually, and then measuring that and telling that story, or whether it's just working on their internal processes to improve what they're doing.
Mhm.
But every business is going to have to analyze that for themselves because they all have such a different impact on sustainability. I
Right.
will tell you, I'm a huge fan of, everybody thinks that if you're too big or too small, you can't do this, but I'm a huge fan of Paul Pullman. He's the former CEO of Unilever.
Mhm.
And over his 10-year tenure there, he just did an amazing job turning Unilever into a more sustainable business. I mean, he went all in and figured out how to do it. I got to see him speak this year. Just an amazing person. His book is it's called Net Positive. Great book. And he's a great example of taking a huge company and making it more sustainable.
Interesting. Very interesting. So what are businesses' biggest marketing challenges and how do you overcome them? I mean, the guy with all your experience, I would suspect you have a couple ideas in that spot.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've seen so many different challenges from a marketing perspective. I would say that, a few years ago, so I was around when, the commercial internet was, just coming on board.
You mean the AOL experience with
That's the one.
that one? I remember that.
1994, and
Uh-huh.
I was working in at the time in business, and really that was a seminal moment for marketing because you just knew the world was going to change. And the problem it helped marketers overcome was personalization and everything that came after the internet. Customer relationship management tools, marketing automation tools, if you think about Salesforce or HubSpot or all those tools, it really helped marketers dial in, right message, right place, right time, and begin to humanize what they're doing, their interactions out in the marketplace. Before that, it was very Mad Men, right? It was all about,
Right.
spraying it out there and praying that you might get something to stick. So the biggest challenge marketers have today is figuring out how to use all of that marketing technology that has just exploded right now and do it in a way that's efficient. There's still, I think, marketers who want to be tactical instead of strategic. And if you can get into it from a strategic standpoint, your tactics will have a much bigger impact than if you didn't. Does that make sense?
100%.
Okay.
Absolutely. So what's your competition in the space like, and how do you stand out from it?
Well, there's definitely a lot of, marketing agencies in the country, in the world, and all kinds of shapes and sizes. I would say there's a smaller number in our cadre that are very purpose-driven, right? They're trying to help their clients and themselves think about not how I just sell more stuff, but how I can do it in a positive way. We've kind of differentiated, I think, by being very integrated, first of all, so we can offer everything under one roof, but then also the types of clients that we're going after. So, Mark, we have really 3 buckets of clients that we target. And the idea here is to find those that share values with us around purpose and profit. And, those 3 buckets, one of them is what we call social good. It's nonprofits, it's for-profits that are working on specific issues, whether it's education reform or criminal justice reform, or, placemaking, these things that are issue driven that we can help them with. Then we have a big group in the energy and infrastructure space. It's really one of our longest practice groups. We work with all types of energy providers, traditional oil and gas, midstream operators, utilities, renewable developers. Everybody has a role to play in this energy transition, and we're there at the table helping them with that. And the other bucket is really because we were headquartered in Oklahoma and grew up there, we have a lot of Oklahoma-based clients, the Oklahoma Lottery, who gives millions of dollars a year back to education in the state. They're one of our clients. So that's how we differentiate ourselves, by really being picky about who we work with.
Very interesting. I guess my question is, and you've kind of alluded to this a little bit, but are there firms that are out there that is purpose driven as you guys?
Oh yeah, definitely so. And I'm actually glad that's the case, because agencies, if you think about just agencies in the marketing world, have a huge influence on marketers, on brands and companies that are going to market to, influence and educate and ultimately sell. So the more of us that are thinking this way, the more influence we can have on those brands as they go to market.
Interesting. Very interesting. Does your company have a culture that you physically promote?
Yeah, great question. The answer is yes. I've worked at a dozen different organizations in my 30 years. Saxum has the healthiest culture I've ever been at. Now, is it perfect? No place is. But maybe it's just looking back at it in my 50s now. But the idea that culture is so important to a business and how people operate in it is huge. What I love about our culture is we're very intentional about it. Most businesses are not. They kind of just let it happen instead of be intentional about developing it. And I want to give a huge shout out to Giant Worldwide. They are consultants in leadership development and culture development, and they're amazing. They have been working with us for years, and I credit them and I credit our founder, Renzai, for instilling these values early on and not letting up on the intentionality. We invest a lot in our people. We invest a lot in our culture. We celebrate it. We talk about it. We measure it, and we report on it in our annual impact reports. So it's definitely something that we focus on.
Very interesting. So obviously we've already talked about promoting social impact for your clients. Are there ways that you promote social impact internally, specifically some specific type programs for Saxum itself?
We do. We actually have 4 of our own programs all around our Obsessed for Good. These are programs that we execute for ourselves and for our people. One of them is a cause program. We call it Step Up. It's our way of giving back to nonprofits. We donate pro bono time, money, effort to nonprofits to help them market their issues and causes. So we seek out those that we can help, and then we do that. So that's our cause program. We have a leadership training program, and that's where Giant comes in. That's huge for us. We actually have a philanthropy program. We call it You Give. So the idea is we are encouraging our individual employees to give to causes that they are passionate about. Reimburse them for that. So it's a way for us to say, look, we want you to act on this. Even if you don't have the money, we'll back you up. So we're definitely trying to take that to heart. So yes, we have our own campaigns, our own issues internally that we are focusing on. The last one is called our DEI program. So we're very focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we measure that, and we encourage diversity. We encourage bringing our whole selves to work. And that has really helped us bring fresh ideas, fresh minds, different thinking, not just from a diversity standpoint, but from a personality standpoint. And all of that's real important to an agency that basically sells ideas, right? That's what we end up doing.
It's interesting because I've never heard anyone describe bring your whole selves to work.
Yep, that's one of our mantras, right? Bring your whole self to work. It's the idea that we're trying to create what Google calls psychological safety in the workplace. So that if you're different than me, because I'm the second oldest person in our agency, so we've got a very young group of people. they should feel as comfortable challenging me with ideas, no matter what their background or personality is like, as anybody. So the idea here is to create that space so that you can act the way that you would at home with your family when you're talking and debating ideas.
That's great. So, how would your company give back positively, creating a positive social impact to society if all of a sudden it found itself with some amazing expense savings and then the resources to do so?
That's a really great question, Mark. I would say that there's probably 2 or 3 ways. I mean, the first one is we would probably double down on our philanthropy program, right? So we as a company can choose where to give, but if you work for us, Mark, you may not like that particular cause.
Right.
So we would probably double down on helping our employees, reimbursing them for them giving to causes. One would definitely be in leadership development. We really believe we have to create liberating leaders, we call it, leaders that can multiply, that can create value, and bring others up. So we would absolutely put money there. We would probably also put it in our Step Up program, the ability to then add more nonprofits that we could do pro bono work for.
Cool.
Those are places we would probably go right away.
Cool. So this is my favorite question. I like to ask all the people that I interview, and it's, what is the best piece of advice you have ever been given? And if you remember who it was from, and you can attach that, that would be great.
Wow. That's a really hard question. I don't know if I have a best piece of advice. I've had great advice from a variety of mentors over the years. So can I give you a couple?
Sure.
Is that fair?
Sure.
I'm going to go all the way back in time. My parents, I grew up on a farm in Kansas. So my parents were huge in instilling, a work ethic in me that has been very, it was advice given every single day. Right. So very credit
whether
them.
You wanted it or not, right?
That's right. Turned out it was very good advice.
Sure.
So that's probably where it started. I know too that I've had just great leaders over the years that have given me advice on how to work well with clients. I've had people that have been wonderful at teaching me emotional intelligence. I would say one of my close friends and advisors, she created a whole company around this development of emotional intelligence. And the advice she always gave was, look, you have to be able to interact with somebody emotionally, understand and empathize with them in a way that it goes way beyond just, personality types and all that thing, true understanding of another human being. She was wonderful at that, which has helped me immensely over the years. But I don't have a quote. I would say I've just been lucky at finding great peers and mentors everywhere I've gone that have just added to my collection. And then I don't have to create anything new necessarily. I just have to be around really smart people that have given me something and that I can go use somewhere else.
So I have 2 smart people.
Yeah.
That I have kind of lived by. The first one was from Coach Wooden.
Oh, sure.
Coach Wooden said, if you're not 5 minutes early, you're late.
Love that quote.
I find people are not prompt. And if they lived by that theory, they may learn to be a little bit more prompt. The second one is by Albert Einstein. And Albert Einstein said, we cannot solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them.
Great quote.
And that's, that's kind of the theory behind what we do in our business as well. Is people say, well, I think out of the box. Yeah. What does that really mean? Well, that's what that means.
Yes.
And so we do that quite often. So those are my 2, because I don't have one either. I could choose one, but I like both of those because I think they both have meaning. So is there anything that I haven't mentioned that you want to touch on?
I don't think so, Mark. This is great. I mean, I really encourage you and others that are kind of spreading this gospel of purpose and profit. There's a movement happening. It's been happening now for some time, and I think it's gained a lot of momentum. So I just encourage you and everybody you talk to keep that going, to believe in that, and to then demonstrate it out in the marketplace, because I think that's where it really starts getting even more traction.
Yeah. So my partner, who also is one of the hosts for this podcast, Yannick Silver, wrote a book called Evolved Enterprises. So he is deeply embedded in this giving back cause. And something else that you may want to think about, just came to my mind, is one of the programs that we have with our business is something where we do a give back with the employees. So first of all, when we do things for clients, 5% of the fees we get paid, we let the client direct where it goes. Great idea. Nonprofit, community initiative, whatever. But we have an alignment with a group called Good World, and Good World is an app-based program that is almost like giving your employees a debit card where they can then spend that money on 1.5 million different nonprofits. Wow. So I wasn't aware of that. It's called Good World. Yeah. And I'll get you some information on that.
Thank you.
Richie Kendall, who's the CEO, is very good friends with Yannick. And we have that program with our business. So
love it. Great idea.
We offer it for our clients. So if listeners want to learn more or get in touch with you, we'll put it in the show notes. How would they do that?
So easiest way to get me is probably I'm all over Saxum.com. Anything that you fill out there will come to me, or you can DM me and follow me on Twitter. I'm at Risley Ranch. So that's my handle there.
Okay, great. Jeff, thank you. Really appreciate your time and the interesting concepts and the giving back part, because, if we're not creating a positive impact on society, what are we doing, right?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mark. It's been a great conversation.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Profits with Purpose. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you are interested in reducing the expenses of your business, creating positive social impact, or contributing to the show, reach out to Mark or Yannick with Evolved Profits by emailing podcast@evolvedprofits.com or visiting the website www.evolvedprofits.com.